Hello and welcome to Number by Color. My name is Todd, and today I'm conflicted. I just finished my first playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I'm still processing the whole experience. There were highs and lows, but I think at the end of the day, I'm going to land somewhere in the middle of good and great. I'm getting ahead of myself though, so let me try to break down my thoughts and explain exactly why I'm so conflicted in my feelings, because there's a lot to like here, but there are some things that just made my journey a little bit less satisfying. Released in July 2019, Three Houses is the 16th summod entry in the long-running Fire Emblem series. Published by Nintendo and developed by Intelligent Systems with a little help from Koei Tecmo, Fire Emblem Three Houses is the first mainline game to appear on a home console in 12 years. I should also say that this is the first Fire Emblem game that I've played. Three Houses is about three tepidly peaceful regions of the continent of Fodlan and the peacekeeping church of Seros, whose monastery sits in the center. You, the silent male or female protagonist, are a mercenary and the child of Geralt, an ex-captain of the church military. After successfully thwarting a bandit attack against the Academy's three house leaders, you are appointed as a professor at Garrigmach Monastery. The weird thing about being appointed as professor is that presumably nobody knows who you are, other than being Geralt's child and a mercenary, so just randomly being given this position seems really weird, especially when the Archbishop is so excited about it. I can't really think of a clunkier way to set things in motion, but fortunately that weirdness is quickly forgotten when you are presented with the choice of which house you want to teach. Each house has a different group of 7 or so unique students, each with their own interests and motivations. Choosing which house to teach not only changes the members available for combat, it also drastically changes the story you experience. The three houses and their leaders are as follows. Claude is the leader of the Golden Deer of the Leicester Alliance, Dimitri is leader of the Blue Lions of the Holy Kingdom of Fargus, and Edelgard is leader of the Black Eagles of the Adrestian Empire. If all these words and names sound intimidating, don't worry, they are. But the learning curve isn't too steep, so you shouldn't have too much trouble after the first few hours. I chose Claude's house, the Golden Deer, for my playthrough, so my experience with the game might differ from yours. The story of Three Houses was not particularly strong for me, though there were enough moments of intrigue and excitement that I was always interested in continuing, and I never felt the need to skip bits of dialogue, at least not when it pertained to the main story. Fire Emblem Three Houses is split primarily into two types of games: tactical turn-based RPG and social simulation. It's essentially Persona with a different battle system, with most of the cutscenes playing out in a vaguely visual novel style. The story is broken into many chapters, with each chapter consisting of a single month, at the end of which there is a story battle. This is the formula for the entire game, not unlike a Persona game. As you'll see, I was often reminded of Persona while playing, for better or worse. That being said, there are a lot of gameplay systems in this game, so I'll try my best to give as much information as I can without being too verbose. First, I'll talk about school life. During your free days, which is 1 day per week, you may choose to bond with your students by sharing meals, drinking tea, having choir practice, or even giving gifts. And if you're not really connecting with the students in your own house, you can try convincing students from another house to join yours. Usually, it will take more than just asking, but it is possible to recruit many of the other students. Apart from bonding with students, you can also partake in optional side quests. These aren't very interesting and usually consist of simply finding an item to bring back to the quest giver in exchange for some items and money, and while the task is mundane, there's really no reason not to do them. I will say that walking around the monastery messed with my OCD because you can talk to almost literally every character, and when you open the map, it's completely full of stuff to do. During periods of lecture, you can work with students individually to raise their combat proficiencies, set goals for which proficiencies they should work on their own, and assign weekly group tasks. Instruction in the classroom translates to improved combat abilities. Choosing which characters to improve in which areas is one of those classic tactical RPG traits that I love so much. And this game gives you a ton of flexibility in how you want to develop your characters. During free days, you also have the option to forego bonding with students directly in favor of fighting non-story battles. These are often inconsequential battles meant to provide experience and a means of earning money, but they are also essential for leveling your characters in between story missions. Battles are fairly standard tactical fare. Ally and enemy units are arranged on a grid-based battlefield, and each side takes turns acting before the other side gets to go. There isn't really anything that differentiates this game from other tactical RPGs I've played, except maybe that weapons have endurance and must be repaired when they're about to break. Even so, battles are still enjoyable and mostly fun. One aspect of the game I should mention is the difficulty. There are two different settings you must choose when you begin the game: a setting for combat difficulty and a setting for game mode. The difficulty options are normal and hard, which are self-explanatory. The mode options are casual and classic. The difference between these two is that casual mode allows characters to return if they die in battle. Classic mode means characters that die are permanently removed from the game. I played normal difficulty and classic mode, and I had no trouble with battles once I got the hang of it. I actually think normal is too easy for anybody who's familiar with this kind of game, because I very rarely had characters die until maybe the last 2 or 3 story battles. An interesting mechanic of battles, and a way to get around permadeath, is the ability to rewind time using something called Divine Pulse. This option is only available to use a few times each battle, so you'll have to be strategic about it, but essentially, if a battle isn't going the way you expected, you simply need to activate Divine Pulse, and you'll be able to rewind every individual action that has happened so far, all the way to the beginning of battle if necessary. In trying not to be too long in the tooth, I'll only briefly mention some of the various gameplay and stat systems in this game. As I mentioned earlier, lectures increase students' proficiencies in several different areas. Increased proficiency not only unlocks new skills and increased power, but it also allows students to change classes. To do this, you must first pass an exam, but if you're sufficiently prepared, that shouldn't ever be a problem. The only real problem I had was likely my own, and that is that I was always so focused on getting S-rank proficiencies with 2 or 3 main areas that I neglected the others, which hurt me later on when I was trying to unlock the master level classes. All in all, this is the kind of meticulous stat grinding that I came for, and this game delivered. However, I will say that I didn't find many of the bonus traits that you get for ranking up all that interesting, which made leveling some proficiencies less exciting than others. Building support levels is a way to increase the bond between characters. This is reminiscent of Persona or Danganronpa or other social sim games. As you interact with characters, their individual support level will increase, some characters up to 4 times. With each support level, a one-on-one conversation is unlocked. Over the course of maxing out a character's support, you'll get to see a more personal side to these characters and what they're going through in their lives. Some characters are really annoying, to be honest, but some are genuine and endearing. By the end of the game, most of the annoying characters did mellow out, but I would have liked to have liked them better earlier on. The art in this game is a mixed bag. Generally, the environments and character designs are pretty good, though battlefields have a generic feel to them. Each character has a distinct look, and their hand-drawn faces are pleasing to look at. The static environment backgrounds during cutscenes are a head-scratcher. Some of these are fine, but some look so bad that it looks like the 3D character models are standing in front of a green screen and not actually in the location they're supposedly in. It's really weird and off-putting, especially since most of the environments have already been built for the game in 3D, so they could have just staged and blocked these scenes in that space instead of making ugly backgrounds. I do want to mention the little vignettes, though, between chapters. These are cool, hand-drawn images that gradually get drawn and colored in as the chapter's narration plays. They have a nice style to them, and they help set the tone. Finally, this game occasionally uses traditional animation for some of its bigger battles and story beats, to good effect. The animation is nice, but it's done using CG, which is understandable, but I would have preferred hand-drawn animation, especially with how few of these scenes there are. For me, it's not a huge hindrance, but the CG nature was always on my mind while watching. The music in Three Houses is not really anything special for me. There are 1 or 2 tracks that are nice, but for most of the game you'll hear the same handful of tracks over and over again. That's not a bad thing per se, as none of the tracks were bad, but it does get repetitive. There was actually one battle track toward the end that was dubstep, and that's not a joke. I found that to be really weird and out of place. Outside of the music, the sound design is good, with nice sound effects and flourishes sprinkled in at the right times. Being my first Fire Emblem game, I'm pretty pleased with it. I have other personal gripes, but overall I found it to be reliably fun. Even if I did have problems with it, I know I enjoyed it because I kept wanting to play it when I wasn't. This game is made to be played at least 3 times, so keep that in mind when you're playing. That being said, I'm happy with what my single playthrough did for me, and I'll probably go back at some point in the future to take another path. I recommend this game for anyone who enjoys tactical RPGs, but make sure you're prepared for the social sim aspects, because if you let them, there'll be a larger portion of the game than the fighting, which may or may not turn you off. The sun is setting on this video, but the journey is not over. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. I've got some other videos up if you're interested in seeing more. I'll be back with another review, but for now, I gotta get back to gaming. I'll see you next time, but don't be a stranger, and tell your folks I said hi.